High above the star-strewn skies of Otria, Ambassador Nara stood on the observation platform, gazing out at the distant glow of Earth's star. Her sapphire-blue skin glistened under Otria's twin moons, her long, dark hair flowing in the gentle breeze. Like most of her kind, she had been raised with an unshakable belief: never mingle with humans. Otria's wisdom was clear. Humanity, with its penchant for chaos, was a force to avoid. But tonight, standing alone on that platform, her mind was troubled. Her position as ambassador to the High Council demanded she assess potential allies, no matter how distasteful. And there were whispers of collaboration with Earth, however unsettling it seemed. When she'd received the message that a human diplomat had arrived on Otria seeking an alliance, she felt a deep apprehension, a warning not just from her training, but from something instinctual, something primal. The humans could be unpredictable, volatile, even dangerous. But the Council had made their orders clear. She would meet the human envoy, a man named Isaac Rains, and assess his intentions. Nara steeled herself, vowing to keep this interaction strictly professional, to maintain the distance that had always protected her world. Her people had nothing to gain from humanity's recklessness, or so she told herself, over and over. As the metallic doors slid open, a figure stepped into the chamber. The human ambassador, Isaac, was tall, his dark hair streaked with silver, his bearing confident. He walked forward with an assured calm, his gaze direct and unyielding as he met Nara's eyes. "Ambassador Nara," he greeted, his voice smooth but respectful. "It's a privilege to finally meet you. I've heard much about the Otrians' wisdom and their gift for diplomacy." Nara nodded stiffly, masking her discomfort. The human had a way of speaking that was both casual and unwavering, as though he were entirely unbothered by the ancient tensions between their species. She responded with formal precision, each word carefully chosen. "Isaac Rains, I am honored to receive you as a guest of Otria. However, let us not mistake formality for alliance. This meeting is but a courtesy." A faint smile crossed his face, but it did little to ease her wariness. "Understood. But I believe we're here for a reason beyond courtesy. I've read that Otria has long held to its isolation, but the universe is changing. Humanity has much to offer if given the chance." Nara's eyes narrowed. "And what exactly does humanity offer, Isaac?" "War. Conquest. Our people have thrived for centuries without your kind's influence." Isaac's smile faded. "I won't deny our flaws, Ambassador, but we also bring innovation, curiosity, resilience. Our alliance could create something unique, a bridge between worlds." The silence between them grew thick, heavy with unspoken doubts and guarded curiosity. Isaac's words echoed in Nara's mind. His offer sounded almost genuine, but she couldn't shake the warnings drilled into her by tradition. Humans were not to be trusted. They craved power, reveled in chaos. Yet, as she watched him, Nara detected a quiet determination in his gaze. He seemed different from the caricatures she'd been taught to expect, not the wild conqueror or reckless adventurer, but a man driven by something deeper, something she could almost respect. Still, Nara's loyalty to her people's teachings held firm. She straightened, her voice cold. "We are not interested in humanity's offer of alliance. Perhaps it's time you return to your own world." Isaac took a slow breath, his expression contemplative. "Ambassador, before you dismiss this, consider the position you're in. Your world is rich in resources, yes, but isolated. If your enemies grow bolder, if they come for what you have, would your people be ready to defend themselves alone?" The question struck a nerve. There had been murmurs within Otria's council of growing threats, rival systems eyeing their resources, but it was something few dared to speak openly about. Yet this human, after only a few moments, had put her fears into words. Nara clenched her jaw, suppressing a flash of irritation at his audacity. "Humans always assume they know what's best for everyone else," she said, her tone laced with irony. "But Otria's strength lies in its independence, in not succumbing to reckless partnerships. We are not so easily swayed. Isaac's gaze softened. I don't doubt your strength, but strength alone doesn't always ensure survival. It's adaptability that matters. Sometimes, it's knowing when to embrace change, even if it means letting go of old prejudices. Before Nara could respond, a sudden vibration rippled through the floor, the metallic walls shuddering. Her instincts flared, and she glanced sharply toward the chamber doors. Another tremor followed, stronger this time, the lights flickering briefly. Isaac's eyes widened, and he took a defensive stance, glancing at her as if awaiting instructions. Nara's heart raced. This was not part of their diplomatic encounter. Alarms began to blare, a shrill, piercing sound that sent a jolt of urgency through her. The voice of an Otrian guard crackled through the intercom, his tone laced with panic. Ambassador Nara, we have intruders in the compound. Unknown armed forces have breached our defenses. Isaac's gaze turned serious, his stance alert. Without hesitation, he stepped closer to her, shielding her instinctively. Looks like we're in this together now, Ambassador. Nara tensed at the human's proximity, but there was no time to protest. The door to the chamber burst open, and masked figures in dark armor poured into the room, their weapons gleaming ominously. Nara's instincts took over. She sidestepped Isaac, ready to defend herself. But before she could react, Isaac was already moving, charging at the intruders with unexpected agility. He intercepted a strike aimed at her, his movements precise and controlled. For a brief moment, Nara hesitated, watching as the human fought with surprising skill, his every move calculated to protect her. A strange, unexpected feeling flickered in her chest, a sense of connection, perhaps even trust, that made her heart pound. In those moments, as they fought side by side against a common enemy, her vow against humans faltered. And as the last attacker fell, leaving silence in their wake, she found herself looking at Isaac with a new, unsettling thought. Nara's breath was ragged as the final echoes of the fight faded into silence. Her pulse thundered in her ears, and she found herself standing close to Isaac, his steady gaze meeting hers. The cool air of the chamber settled around them, but the adrenaline still burned in her veins. Isaac's face was splattered with a streak of dark green, the blood of one of the masked intruders. Yet his expression held a calm intensity, his dark eyes probing hers as if trying to understand her reaction. Nara felt herself caught in the weight of his gaze, an unfamiliar sensation creeping over her. She had spent her life believing that no human could be trusted, yet here was one who had thrown himself into danger to protect her without hesitation. "Are you all right, Ambassador?" he asked, his voice low but firm. Nara drew a breath to steady herself, struggling to mask the mixture of emotions within her. She wanted to maintain her composure, to uphold the detachment that her position demanded, but there was no denying the strange sense of camaraderie that had bloomed between them. In the heat of battle, Isaac had proven himself in a way that words never could. And though her instinct was to resist, to reject the idea that a human could truly be an ally, a part of her hesitated. "Yes," she finally replied, her voice quieter than she intended. "I am unharmed." Isaac gave a nod, his shoulders relaxing slightly. The tension between them was undeniable, an energy she could almost feel humming in the air. "We should leave this chamber," she said briskly, attempting to regain her authority. "It's likely that others are coming." "Agreed." Isaac's tone was steady, but there was a look of intrigue in his eyes, as if he could sense her inner conflict. Without another word, they moved together, navigating through the corridors with an unspoken understanding, their steps echoing in sync. As they wound their way toward the control room, Nara's thoughts whirled. This man had shattered her expectations in mere moments. She could sense his strength, not only in the way he had fought, but in his resolve, his composure. He was not the chaotic, reckless human she had always imagined. And as much as she wished to deny it, there was a stirring inside her, a quiet realization that perhaps she had been wrong. When they reached the control room, Nara took her place before the security console, scanning the monitors. A handful of guards hurried into position, their expressions wary but respectful as they acknowledged her. She knew she was expected to take command, to issue instructions, yet she found her gaze drifting back to Isaac, who stood a few paces behind, silently waiting for her lead. "Isaac," she said at last, surprising herself with the familiarity of his name on her lips. "It appears you may have been correct. Our isolation does make us vulnerable." He tilted his head slightly, a gentle understanding in his eyes. "I didn't come here to force an alliance, Nara. I came to offer one. Whatever decision you make, it will be respected." The sincerity in his words struck her deeply. For so long, she had expected that any interaction with humans would be a battle of wills, a test of dominance. Yet here was a man who offered respect instead of control, cooperation instead of conquest. As she looked at him, Nara felt something shift inside her. Perhaps it was the weight of the battle they had just shared, the trust forged in those moments of danger, or perhaps it was simply the realization that she could no longer ignore what her heart had started to whisper. "Perhaps," she said, her voice softening, "we could discuss what this alliance might entail. After all, it seems you have already proven yourself a valuable ally." Isaac's lips curved into a small, warm smile. "I'd be honored, Ambassador." And as they stood there, surrounded by the aftermath of battle, Nara felt a new beginning stir within her, a path she had never expected, a possibility she had never dared to consider. Nara gestured for Isaac to follow her to a quieter section of the control room, away from the watchful eyes of the guards. She could feel their curiosity and unease, the tension of her people seeing their ambassador confide in a human. Yet she knew that if there were ever a time to consider change, it was now. They settled into an alcove with a view of Otria's cityscape, its towers shimmering beneath the twin moons. Nara glanced sideways at Isaac, noticing how he, too, seemed captivated by the sight. There was a gentleness in his gaze, a calm admiration for her world that softened her own guarded stance. "I can see why you want to protect a place like this," he said, his voice almost reverent. Nara allowed herself a faint smile. "It has been my life's purpose to ensure Otria's safety, to shield it from outside influences that might corrupt our way of life. My people have long believed that humans would bring only conflict, that your nature is incompatible with ours." Isaac nodded, a slight furrow in his brow. "I understand. Humans have a complicated history, and we've certainly made our share of mistakes. But we've also learned from them, or at least, some of us have." He paused, as if weighing his words carefully. "That's part of why I came here. I wanted to show you that we're not all the same, that there's potential for a different kind of connection between our worlds." She looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "But why, Isaac? Why risk so much to offer peace to a people who have made it clear they want nothing to do with you?" Isaac's expression softened, his gaze turning introspective. "Because I believe in the possibility of something greater. I've seen too much of humanity's darker side. Yes, but I've also seen resilience, compassion, and the strength that comes from understanding others. I want to believe that we can create a future where differences make us stronger." For a moment, they fell silent, each lost in thought. Nara felt a stirring within her, a quiet sense of admiration she had not expected. Isaac's words resonated in a way she could not ignore. They tapped into her own doubts, her own curiosity about the wider universe beyond Otria's borders. He was challenging everything she'd been taught, yet somehow his challenge felt less like a threat and more like an invitation. As she opened her mouth to respond, the intercom crackled to life again. "Ambassador Nara, our perimeter defenses have been breached. More intruders are incoming." Nara's heart clenched, and her gaze met Isaac's. There was no need for words. The understanding between them was immediate. They would fight again, side by side, to defend her world. Together, they hurried back toward the main chamber, rallying the guards and preparing a defensive line. Isaac moved with practiced efficiency, giving quick, clear instructions to the Otrian guards, who, despite their skepticism, followed his lead. Nara watched him in action, marveling at his adaptability, his calm under pressure. There was a strength in him that was entirely different from the rigidity of her own people, a flexibility that allowed him to thrive in chaos. The next wave of attackers arrived, their weapons blazing in the dim light. Isaac and Nara fought in unison, a seamless blend of Otrian precision and human improvisation. They moved as one, covering each other's weaknesses, anticipating each other's moves. In those intense, fleeting moments, Nara felt an undeniable connection, a synchronicity that transcended their differences. As the last intruder fell, Nara glanced at Isaac, her breath coming in shallow gasps. His face was streaked with sweat and grit, but his eyes held a fierce light, a quiet triumph. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, a deep appreciation she had never thought she would feel for a human. "Thank you, Isaac," she murmured, her voice barely audible. He gave her a small, weary smile. "You don't have to thank me, Nora. This is as much your fight as it is mine." They stood there, amidst the aftermath of the battle, a silence settling over them. And in that silence, something unspoken passed between them, a bond forged in the fires of conflict, a fragile but undeniable trust. Nara took a steadying breath, her resolve solidifying. "Perhaps it's time we considered a new path, one where our worlds don't just coexist, but collaborate." Isaac's gaze softened, a spark of hope lighting his eyes. "I'd be honored to be part of that journey, Nara." She nodded, feeling the weight of her decision, but also the promise it held. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where humans and Otrians could stand together, not as enemies, but as allies. And perhaps, in that shared vision, she and Isaac had already taken the first step. As dawn broke over Otria, casting golden hues across the spires and valleys, Nara and Isaac found themselves walking side by side through the serene courtyards of the embassy. The chaos of the previous night had given way to an unusual calm. Otrian guards nodded respectfully as they passed, their expressions a mix of awe and uncertainty at the sight of their ambassador walking with the human envoy. Word had spread quickly of the attack and of how Nara and Isaac had fought together to defend the compound. Isaac spoke first, his tone light, but carrying a sense of purpose. "So, what now, Ambassador? I assume our diplomatic meeting just turned a little unconventional." Nara allowed herself a small smile. Unconventional would be an understatement, but perhaps that's exactly what we needed to break through centuries of tradition and fear. She glanced at him, trying to gauge his reaction. "This alliance, it would not be easy. Even if I were to bring the proposal to the council, they would need much more than words. The Otrian people value stability and have never trusted humanity's chaotic nature. They will need proof that working with your people would not endanger our world." Isaac nodded thoughtfully. "Then let me help provide that proof. Give us a trial period. Perhaps there's something humanity can offer. Scientific research, environmental technology, defense strategies that would benefit Otria directly. Let us show you our best." Nara considered this, realizing the risk but also the potential reward. It would be a gamble to allow humans deeper access to their world, but after seeing Isaac in action, she felt a cautious optimism that perhaps, just perhaps, this was a risk worth taking. "Very well," she said finally. "I will propose to the council a provisional alliance. During this trial period, your team will have access to our environmental data, and in return you will share your latest advances in defense technology. This way, both sides can demonstrate good faith." Isaac's face broke into a relieved smile. "Thank you, Nara. I promise I won't let you down." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. Nara turned to see her advisor, Commander Sullen, striding toward them, his expression both stern and cautious. He cast a wary glance at Isaac before addressing Nara. "Ambassador," he began, bowing slightly, "the council has convened an emergency session in light of last night's events. They request your immediate presence And he added reluctantly, they've asked for the human envoy to join as well. Nara's heart skipped a beat. The council's willingness to meet with Isaac so soon was unexpected. Usually, any decision of this magnitude would take weeks of deliberation, with every possible risk and benefit painstakingly evaluated. But perhaps the urgency of the attack had forced their hand. She looked at Isaac. It seems your first test as an ally will be convincing the council that you're worthy of their trust. Isaac straightened, his expression serious. I'm ready. The council chamber was vast, with towering pillars and seats arranged in a semicircle around a central podium, where Nara and Isaac now stood. The council members, all cloaked in formal attire, regarded them with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Some of them wore expressions of outright hostility, others concealed their wariness behind polite neutrality. Nara could sense the weight of generations of tradition and caution in their stares. The council leader, an elder named Valen, spoke first. His voice was calm but carried the authority of years. Ambassador Nara, it has come to our attention that you risked not only your life, but the security of our compound by allowing this human to remain during a moment of crisis. You fought alongside him, defended him. He paused, his piercing gaze shifting to Isaac. Explain to us why you believe humanity deserves our consideration as an ally, given their history of discord. Nara took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. Esteemed council, I understand the concerns. For generations, we have protected Otria by maintaining our isolation, our independence. But last night, in the midst of an attack on our soil, I saw something unexpected. She gestured toward Isaac. This man risked his life to protect not only me, but every Otrian in that compound. He fought beside me as an equal with respect for our lives and our values. I believe he is different from the humans we were taught to fear. And perhaps through cooperation, there is much we could learn from one another. The council members murmured among themselves, and Nara could feel their skepticism. Then Valen addressed Isaac directly. Human, you stand before us as a representative of your species. Convince us that an alliance with you would not lead to Otria's downfall. We are a people of peace and stability. Why should we open ourselves to the unpredictability of humanity? Isaac met Valen's gaze without flinching. I can't erase humanity's history, and I won't deny that we've made mistakes. But every species evolves. Yes, we are ambitious, but ambition drives us to learn, to innovate, to grow. I believe that humanity and Otria can complement each other. We bring adaptability, curiosity, and a willingness to face the unknown. He paused, letting his words sink in. I know I am asking for your trust, which is not given lightly. But consider this. The universe is shifting. Isolation may have protected you in the past, but it won't shield you forever. An alliance with humanity isn't about surrendering your values. It's about finding strength together. Let us prove that we can be more than the sum of our past. A quiet fell over the chamber, the council members' faces thoughtful as they absorbed his words. Finally, Valen spoke, his tone cautious but with a hint of openness. Ambassador Nara, Isaac Rains, we will consider your proposal. We will evaluate the trial period and see if humanity's actions align with your words. Know that this council will remain vigilant. If humanity's presence endangers Otria in any way, we will act to protect our people. Nara inclined her head, a subtle relief washing over her. Thank you, honored council. We will not fail you. With that, the session was adjourned, and Nara and Isaac left the chamber, their steps echoing in the vast halls. Once outside, Nara turned to him, a smile breaking through her usually composed demeanor. You spoke well, Isaac. I believe you may have even swayed some of them. He chuckled softly. Well, I hope so. That was probably the most intense interview of my life. As they walked toward the embassy gardens, Nara felt a glimmer of hope stirring within her. It was just the beginning, and many challenges lay ahead. But for the first time, she could imagine a future where humans and Otrians might walk together, side by side, forging a new path. And as they stood there under the twin moons, watching the first stars of the evening appear, Nara couldn't shake the feeling that this alliance was more than just a matter of politics. It was the start of something much greater. In the weeks that followed, the Trial Alliance began in earnest. A team of human scientists and engineers, carefully vetted by both Otrian and Earth authorities, arrived on Otria to work alongside Nara's people. The project focused on developing environmental technology that could strengthen Otria's resources without disrupting their delicate ecosystems, a central concern of the Council. Nara spent long hours overseeing the collaboration, her initial apprehension gradually giving way to a cautious optimism. Isaac, always nearby, proved an effective liaison, his genuine respect for Otrian customs softening some of the cultural clashes that inevitably arose. There were moments of tension, but also breakthroughs, moments when both humans and Otrians marveled at the unique knowledge each brought to the table. But just as progress seemed steady, disturbing reports surfaced. Nara was summoned to a private council session late one evening, where she was greeted with grim faces and an air of urgency. Valen, who had remained skeptical of the alliance, was the first to speak. "Ambassador, we have received intel suggesting that factions on Earth oppose this alliance. It seems that not all of humanity shares Mr. Raines's vision of cooperation." Nara's stomach tightened. Are these factions a serious threat, or merely dissidents expressing disapproval? Valen exchanged glances with other council members. "The intelligence we've gathered suggests something more than words. We suspect sabotage. There have been subtle disturbances in our facilities where humans are involved. Nothing overt, but enough to raise concern." Nara took a deep breath, trying to steady her thoughts. Sabotage from humans on Otrian soil. It was exactly the kind of outcome the Council had feared, and exactly the kind of incident that could unravel everything they'd worked to build. "I'll look into it immediately," she said, her voice steady but tense. "I trust Isaac implicitly, but if there are others acting against our agreement, we will uncover them." As Nara left the council chambers, she was met by Isaac, who was waiting outside, clearly sensing the gravity of her expression. "What's happened?" he asked, his brow furrowing with concern. Nara hesitated, the weight of the council's suspicions heavy on her. "There's been word of potential sabotage from within your team, Isaac. Certain members of the council are concerned." Isaac's expression turned to shock, then frustration. "If anyone on my team is undermining this alliance, I swear they'll be removed immediately." "But Nara," he said, his tone softening, "you must know I'd never be a part of that. This alliance means too much to me, to both of us." She studied his face, searching for any trace of doubt. All she found was genuine conviction, a fierce loyalty that matched her own. In that moment, she realized that her trust in him had deepened far beyond the boundaries of duty. "I believe you, Isaac," she said quietly. "But this alliance stands on shaky ground, and we must tread carefully. We'll need to find out who's behind this and stop them before the Council loses faith entirely." Together, they spent the next days working discreetly, combing through data and monitoring communications within the human team. They interviewed scientists and engineers, seeking clues to who might be behind the disruptions. Slowly, a pattern emerged. A small faction within the human team, loyal not to Earth's diplomatic mission, but to a separate agenda that prioritized Earth's interests alone. It all came to a head one night in a remote research facility, where a sabotage attempt threatened to poison one of Otria's primary water sources. Nara and Isaac arrived just in time, confronting two humans attempting to tamper with the systems. "Step away from the controls." Isaac's voice rang out, firm and commanding. The saboteurs hesitated, casting wary glances at each other before one of them spoke up. "You really believe that these aliens deserve our technology, Isaac? That they won't turn on us the first chance they get?" Isaac's gaze hardened. "The only ones betraying anyone here are you. This alliance isn't just about trade or resources. It's about building a future without the boundaries we've put between our worlds. If you can't see that, then you don't belong here." Nara stood by his side, her stance resolute. Otria opened its doors to humanity in good faith. But if you cannot honor that trust, you will be sent back to Earth and forbidden to return. Realizing they were outmatched, the saboteurs surrendered, and within hours they were placed in custody and deported back to Earth under strict orders. The incident, though unsettling, had an unexpected silver lining. News of Isaac's loyalty and determination to preserve the alliance spread among both human and Otrian teams, reinforcing the sense of unity. Even members of the council who had been most skeptical began to view the alliance with a renewed perspective, recognizing the sacrifice and commitment that Isaac had shown. As the weeks passed, the cooperative projects flourished, leading to groundbreaking advancements that neither species could have achieved alone. The Trial Alliance was extended, and both Otria and Earth saw benefits from their shared knowledge. One evening, Nara and Isaac found themselves alone on the observation platform once more, gazing out over the peaceful landscape. The night was calm, the twin moons casting a soft glow over Otria. Isaac broke the silence, his voice thoughtful. "I didn't think, when I first came here, that it would be this difficult, or this rewarding." Nara looked at him, a warmth in her eyes that had been absent during their first tense meeting. "Nor did I. I spent my life convinced that humanity was too dangerous to trust. But you've shown me that there are exceptions, and perhaps even a future where our people can stand as equals." Isaac turned to her, his expression unguarded. "Nara, this alliance, it was supposed to be diplomatic, but it's become personal to me. You've shown me a different way of seeing things, a way I never thought possible." She met his gaze, feeling a connection that transcended words, a bridge not just between their worlds, but between them as individuals. Their alliance had started as an obligation, a matter of politics and duty. But here, under the twin moons of Otria, it felt like something infinitely more profound. And as they stood together, side by side, the stars above them seemed to promise that perhaps, just perhaps, their worlds could truly share a future, one built not on fear or power, but on trust, respect, and a bond that defied the very boundaries of the universe. Over the following months, the alliance between Earth and Otria solidified, growing stronger with each successful project and discovery. Earth's technology, combined with Otria's deep respect for ecological balance, led to innovations that benefited both planets. Otria's ecosystems flourished with the new sustainable technologies, while humanity gained invaluable insights into environmental preservation. What had once been a fragile, tentative agreement was transforming into a partnership both species could be proud of. Nara and Isaac continued working closely, their relationship growing beyond mere diplomacy. They had become friends, confidants, and perhaps something even deeper, though neither dared speak of it aloud. They shared long conversations that drifted between science and philosophy, history and future possibilities. Their contrasting backgrounds often led to heated debates, but the tension between them only highlighted the profound respect they held for each other. Yet, despite the alliance's progress, they were not without enemies. A powerful, expansionist empire known as the Draken Syndicate had long coveted Otria's resources and viewed the alliance with Earth as a direct threat. Unwilling to allow Otria to align with any external power, the Drakens began to stir, amassing ships and troops along Otria's borders. The Council was on high alert, anticipating an invasion at any moment. One evening, during a meeting of the Council, the alarms blared. A young guard rushed in, his face pale. "Ambassadors, the Draken Syndicate has launched an assault. Their ships are approaching our atmosphere." Nara felt her stomach lurch. The Draken threat had loomed for years, but she had never imagined it would come to this, a full-scale attack. Isaac, standing beside her, clenched his jaw, his face set with grim determination. "We have a defense plan in place," he said, addressing the Council with calm authority. "If we work together, we can hold them off." Nara glanced at him, her heart pounding. "You're suggesting Earth send reinforcements?" He nodded. "If the Council agrees, Earth can mobilize a fleet to aid in Otria's defense, but it will require swift coordination. The council members exchanged wary glances, torn between the risk of accepting Earth's help and the threat posed by the Drakons. Finally, Valen spoke, his voice solemn. "Ambassador Nara, this decision rests with you. As our chief diplomat, it is your call." Nara took a deep breath, her mind racing. This was no longer just about the principles she had been taught or the traditions her people upheld. Otria was on the brink of annihilation, and humanity stood ready to protect them. Her heart knew the answer before her mind did. She looked at Isaac, her voice unwavering. "Call your fleet. We will stand together." Within hours, Earth's forces arrived, bringing a fleet of formidable ships that joined Otria's defenses. Isaac took command of the human contingent, working in perfect sync with Nara and the Otrian military. Side by side, they led their combined forces, coordinating attacks and maneuvers with remarkable precision. The battle was fierce. Draken warships clashed with Earth and Otrian vessels in the skies above Otria, filling the heavens with the flash of energy weapons and the shudder of distant explosions. Nara's heart ached with every loss, yet she felt an unwavering resolve within her. Her people were fighting with everything they had, and humanity was standing beside them, their ships battered but unyielding. In the midst of the chaos, Nara found herself aboard an Otrian warship, working alongside Isaac. The ship shook as a Draken missile struck nearby, and Nara stumbled, only to be caught by Isaac's steadying hand. "Nara, are you all right?" he asked, concern etched into his face. She nodded, gripping his hand tightly. "Thank you, Isaac. I don't know what we would have done without you." He smiled, a hint of warmth breaking through his battle-hardened expression. "You don't have to thank me. This is what we're here for." As the battle raged on, their forces began to gain the upper hand. The Drakons, caught off guard by the combined strength of Earth and Otria, faltered. In a final, desperate assault, the Draken fleet launched a massive attack on Otria's capital city. Nara and Isaac worked together, coordinating a counterstrike that forced the Drakons into retreat. When the last Draken ship finally withdrew, a cheer erupted across Otria's communication channels. The Alliance had triumphed. Exhausted but exhilarated, Nara and Isaac stood together on the observation deck of the warship, looking out at the stars. For the first time since the attack began, they allowed themselves a moment of relief. "It's over," Nara said softly, barely able to believe it. "We did it." Isaac looked at her, his gaze filled with quiet admiration. "No, you did it, Nara. Your courage, your leadership, it's what held everyone together." She met his eyes, feeling a surge of emotion that she could no longer deny. "Isaac, I never thought I would say this, but you have become more than just an ally to me. You've shown me that there is strength in unity, in trust." Isaac reached for her hand, his expression vulnerable, hopeful. "And you, Nara, have shown me that there's more to the universe than just Earth's interests. That there's something worth protecting beyond borders, beyond differences." For a moment, they stood in silence, hand in hand, the weight of their journey pressing upon them. But there, under the starlit skies of Otria, they shared a connection that defied the boundaries of their worlds, one that promised a future neither could have imagined when they first met. In the days that followed, the alliance between Earth and Otria was no longer questioned. It was celebrated. The bond that Nara and Isaac had forged through battle and shared purpose inspired their people, paving the way for an era of cooperation and understanding. Together, Earth and Otria began to chart a new path, one that promised not just survival, but a future of mutual growth, discovery, and respect. And as Nara and Isaac continued their work, their friendship and partnership only deepened, fueled by the quiet certainty that they had found in each other not just an ally, but a kindred spirit. They were, against all odds, a bridge between worlds, proof that even the most distant stars could come together in harmony, if only they dared to reach across the void.